Hey guys, it is Thursday, August 1st. This isn't going to be an update video. This is going to be everyday life video, and it's going to include a great loss that Tony and I have experienced here recently. And I'm going to talk about how the hormones, how I reacted to that differently than in the past. So I'm just going to go on a little bit about what's gone on. For those of you who have followed me, I did a video in the early stages of transition out where we keep our horses, and our horses were on the video. My horse Annie, the thoroughbred, the red one, if you go back, she incurred a hoof lameness. And lameness just means they're not walking on all four right. And usually it happens in their front because that's where they put most of their weight. So anyway, about 2 years ago, we thought that Annie had a hoof abscess, which just means that they've gotten some fluid somewhere, maybe some infection somewhere, or the body's responding somehow and it travels. Gravity pulls it down, and usually these abscesses will blow out down the hooves, out through the hooves. So she was really tender, and they did a hoof tester, which that's how they usually find out that the horse has an abscess. And she was positive, so I packed her left hoof for 5 weeks every day with medicine, cardboard, and duct tape. The cardboard added, it was like a padding, and it kept the medicine in between the hoof and the cardboard, and then I duct taped it. And then she still didn't get better. And Dr. Paul looked at her, and the vet, and he said, well, why don't we start her on this medication? Go ahead and ride her, just give her some bute. So basically that happened for another 7 to 8 months, but she never got better. When I got the valley fever, or just before I got the valley fever, I took her over to the vet, and he did a nerve block. And he said, she's got navicular, but I need to see if it's definitely navicular. So he did the nerve block and showed positive in both hooves for navicular disease. Basically, there's like 3 bones. This is the leg, and it comes down 1, 2, and then here's the hoof, and third bone's like this for the hoof. In the back of this is a little bone that sits about like here, and there's tendons that run in between all around it. And this little bone, if it starts getting some ridges in it, the bone becomes not a smooth surface. It will rub against those tendons, and it'll irritate and blow up the hoof, and they can't walk very good. So the joke was that, I'm disabled in my feet, now Annie's got problems with her feet, and we put her in the navicular shoes and pads, did all that. Dr. Paul said, go ahead and ride her, just give her some bute, and that was okay. When I got the valley fever last October, I told her, I said, okay, you're getting a vacation. Get those hooves okay, get them well, and be ready when I get back to riding. Well, she was lame even in the pen, and for the 8 months that I was off from riding, she just was off too. The lameness never went away. I gave her medication for a year every day I went out there. That didn't seem to help, so I took her off of it. Just a lot of things that progressed to get worse. When my farrier, who is the horseshoer, came this last time, or the time before, he said, it looks like she's pinching something. So that was in back of my head, and so I talked to a co-horse person, and she said, we talked about x-rays, and she said, I just hate to see you spend the money when navicular doesn't really show up that good. So I threw that around and kind of delayed it. Well, this last month or so, her demeanor started changing. when Tony and I would take him out and put him in the arena so they can run and buck and do whatever, she wouldn't do that anymore the last 2 times. She didn't even want to run. And she was one that if the other horse took off running, she took off running because, you know, racehorse, they're bred to race. She would pass them and she would be first. Not anymore. She pinned her ears in the pen, and he never pinned her ears. So it was just a matter of watching her change, and she kind of looked depressed. That could have been just human feelings upon her. So needless to say, I took her to the vet last week and we did x-rays. He called me that night and said we've got another issue going on, and asked Tony and I to come so he can show us. So she's developed side ring bone. Ring bone is basically where these three bones in the hoof have like a little, almost like the spinal cord has a disc, you know, so that it's called a band, I believe, but so they don't hit bone on bone. Well, ring bone, a lot of horses that have like done a lot of trail riding up in the mountains and stuff, they'll develop this because they just wear that shock absorbent, and they end up with bone on bone. They become lame, but a lot of times if you put them in shoes and stuff where they're not pounding those feet as bad, then they're sound. Sound just means they're not lame anymore. Well, and with this ring bone, the bones will eventually fuse, and when that happens, they don't have any more pain. So the side ring bone is different. It's on the side of the bone, and it develops points. She had 2 points. And so when she would turn, those points would dig into her tendons and her skin and whatever else is around there. And so it did look like she was pinching. He told me that the prognosis was she would progressively get worse. And that if I wanted to ride her out on the trail just to dope her up, but I couldn't work her on the ground or anything. And I just remembered Annie the last couple times I've ridden her, how she wasn't the same. And I told him, I said, you know how I feel about letting horses go and just dope them up for our own needs. I don't think that's fair. Any animal. And he said, you know, he won't tell you to put your animal down, but he'll guide you if you ask, and the best way he can professionally. So I consulted one of the co-stable people that I have high respect for. She breeds horses, and I told her, asked her to be straight with me. She's known the issues for the last couple years with me and Annie, and she said, honestly, I'd let her go. And that day that we had x-ray, she asked me if I was ready to let her go, because she could see it in the hooves. So Tony and I came home that night and we talked, and we decided we were going to put her down. She's only 11 years old, beautiful, a lot of spunk, a lot of spirit, but she wasn't showing it at the end. She didn't have her head held high. She didn't trot around the arena showing everyone how beautiful she was. And in fact, when the last time we took him in there, Tony walked right up to her. She was ready to come out, and it just wasn't her. So Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, the vet came. And here's the difference on how I handled a grieving moment compared to how I used to handle them on estrogen. The only thing I could keep saying to her was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm taking your life. I shook. I didn't cry. And it's not, that doesn't mean it's good and that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just a change in how I handled things. I didn't, start bawling or anything. And in the past I would have. Even with Gracie, I didn't realize the change. But Annie and I were connected. And I noticed that with being on T is that I was able to disconnect some when it needed to be, and not instead embrace it and have all these emotions. So loss is always hard. And especially it's an animal and they can't talk to you, and you wonder still if you did the right thing. And the vet told me that morning I was doing the right thing, and everyone that knew Annie told me I was doing the right thing. But it's still hard. And so I haven't been out to there since Annie. I know I need to get out there because Coco's all by herself now. I had someone email me and say, well, Coco was neighing a lot, but she's not in distress, which is good. I actually took Coco over to Annie and let her sniff her, and she kept muzzling her like, wake up, and Annie didn't move. So she kind of knew, I think. But they have their grieving ways too. I don't know how I will respond once I get back out there and know that she's not there anymore. I've also been offered a couple of horse projects. We'll see where those go. I'm kind of just like up in the air right now. But I want to document this and talk about how I responded emotionally, how there's been a change, how I saw a change in myself. Doesn't mean anybody else is going to see those changes. I'm just saying for myself. I was stronger. And I think that goes back to my last video when I was talking about the hormones and how different, you know, how the primate, the one who has to go out and kill for to feed the family and stuff, how they're not so emotional. They're emotionally detached in a lot of ways, because if men were emotionally attached to everything, they couldn't function. Aspen. They couldn't function. To where women are emotionally attached and they balance all that. You know, they fill in those cracks. I'm sorry, the front door's open. Aspen. So anyway, I'm not doing the video for, you know, attention or anything, but I do like to talk about things. That's how I get over things. I talk them out. I repeat myself. I tell my story 100 times. I write it down. But now that I've been videoing, I decided to do that. So I'm okay. Everything's okay. We did the best thing for my girl. She gave me four plus good years. She taught me a lot. She made me learn. She made me, Misha, made me educate myself. And in return, my skills built her confidence, built her self-esteem as a horse. So anyway, I hope you guys are taking it one day at a time, making your journey as simple as possible. See ya.